Hey, 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 what is going on, Automotive Nation? And thank you for joining me on another episode of the Game Changer Holiday Series. How you doing? Hey, I am so glad that you guys decided to take the time to come join us for another one of these great sessions. I'll tell you guys, this holiday series has been a lot of fun. So the sessions we've already gone through have been absolutely amazing. And by the way, guys, if you've missed any of these sessions, you'll see a little ticker that's kind of going on down here. A couple things about that. First, there will be the website so you guys can go back and actually watch the other sessions. But most importantly, there is a phone number right down here. You see it like down below my screen here. Here it is. All right. That is your text in number. So if you guys have any questions during today's session, we want you guys to go ahead and text that in. I am super, super excited. At the end of today's show, we're going to have Justin kind of jump on with us and we're going to dive into it. And guys, this is such a timely message, right? I mean, this is the time that you guys are getting ready for your 2026 year. And, we're going to be talking about, growing the market share and ROI with predictive AI-driven omnichannel strategy. I know that's a mouthful, but don't worry because we're going to break it down. Okay. So today, guys, we're diving into one of the biggest gaps in dealership marketing. All right. Confusing activity for strategy. I am joined, all right, here in just a minute with Justin Friend from Proficy Digital and Bill with Gold Coast Cadillac. We're breaking down how dealers can finally create a predictive AI-driven omni-channel plan. So not just like channels here and there and proverbial checkboxes. We're talking like the whole funnel here, right? This strategy will grow market share, reduce waste, and deliver real ROI. If you're tired of discounted channels, unclear results, and guessing where your media dollars should go, this conversation is right up your alley. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready. We're letting a few more people. I can see people are coming into the feed right now. So, all right, we're gonna get to it right now, guys. And after this, like I said, we're gonna jump on with Justin, and we're gonna do a live Q&A. The phone number's down here, right? Okay, so make sure to text in your questions. Hey, Bill, he just texted me. So you guys are already texting, so that's good. Keep texting. That's absolutely awesome. Guys, here we go. Let's get it started.
Our advertising is a net $158 a car. Net $158.
I love the fact that you know that, by the way.
And I know for fact, when I open up my Google data suite, there may be 2 or 3 people standing in my showroom. But there's going to be 40 or 50 people on my site right now. You can't manage what you can't measure, right? So in today's day and age, we have measurement tools for any dealer or anybody. We have a data suite through Google, and our data suite allows us to measure all the activity.
The notion of activity for activity for activity. And at the end of the day, part of that strategy is activity, but it has to be integrated.
Yes,
it has to work together. And there has to be a purpose to get to that next level.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Automotive Nation? I am Jason Harris, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Game Changer Seminar, where I and my team have looked across the country to find the game-changing vendor partners out there that are going to ultimately help improve your operations and your bottom line. And boy, do I have one coming up on the stage now. Guys, I'm actually really excited for this because, I have talked for years about how we really need to modernize our marketing. And I'm telling you, this particular company, Proficy Digital, is doing exactly that. Their approach to becoming a vendor partner is absolutely game-changing. Their approach to the strategy and not just the activity of marketing is something really impressive. So I'm excited to have them up, guys. I'm going to have everyone, big round of applause. We're bringing up Justin and Bill, guys. Come on up. All right. What's going on, Bill, man? Good to see you, Justin. Here, I'll have you guys take there. Sure. Guys, I'm so looking forward to getting into this conversation. By the way, how's Nashville treating you?
Pretty good. Been here a couple times. It never ceases to amaze me how fast it grows.
It is something, right?
First time for me, Jason. Literally landed and came right here. So I'll let you know tomorrow.
You'll let me know tomorrow afterwards. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time tonight for sure. Well, guys, look, I'm super glad that you guys had the opportunity to come out. Really been looking forward to this conversation. Here's what I like to do: is I love kind of kicking off these conversations with little origin stories, right? So that way, everybody out there watching and listening right now kind of know who you are and kind of what you guys do right now. So let's go ahead and do that. Bill, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then Justin, I'll ask you the same. Bill, how in the world? And I always do the world because I'm always fascinated how people just make their way into automotive. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
I'll tell you I'll tell you the truth. Let's go with that.
Okay, let's do that.
So the truth is, at 21 years old, I didn't have a car and was living in the Bronx and couldn't go on dates with girls without a car.
That's a problem.
So back in those days, it is a while ago, 40 years ago, if you sold 20 cars a month at a Chevrolet store in Central Avenue in Yonkers, they would give you a demo. So my second month, I sold 20 cars, and I got a demo, and I realized that I had landed in nirvana, and ended up moving into management very quickly. Worked for 3 public companies as an inside consultant for 20 years. Owned my own stores for the last 12, 13 years, and now I'm the operating partner at Gold Coast Cadillac Dealer of the Year 16 times in a row.
That's amazing. And I know that it's a big commitment, man, to be able to really invest in the people, the process, and the technologies to get there. That ain't no overnight success. That's
4-letter word called work, my friend.
There you go, right? There we go. There we go. Justin, for yourself, man, like I said, I'm always fascinated because I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and goes, yeah, automotive industry. That's where I'm going to be. So I'm curious, how did it start out for you? How did you get into the automotive side?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. Certainly didn't wake up and was like, wow, automotive, let's do this. I was working with a company that sold home fitness equipment. And a gentleman came in with his wife, and I sold them a treadmill and a home gym and a whole bunch of equipment. And over the course of a couple transactions, he basically recruited me on board. And that was a company that sold direct marketing to car dealers. If you think old, mail sales, intent events, that type of thing. Ended up becoming a partner in that company. We were acquired by Auto Alert, then moved into digital advertising with another company, and had the opportunity to join the team here at Proficy, and have loved it ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And guys, I'm excited to get into kind of what Proficy Digital is doing and how different they are from everyone else out there. But here's what I kind of like to do. I like to kind of kick this off because I know we've had a chance to talk a little bit before we started recording today. Strategy is absolutely key. And, I think for a lot of dealers out there, strategy hasn't really fundamentally changed in years. And I think there's a difference between just like activity and strategy, right? So I guess here's my first question is like, how do you tell the difference when you're actually executing a strategy versus you're just doing the activities to do them? Bill, I'll start with you, and Justin, I'll ask you the same question.
Well, I think first, you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So
Good point.
in today's day and age, we have measurement tools for any dealer or anybody. We have a data suite through Google, and our data suite allows us to measure all the activity from all the various, portals and third parties and organic search mechanisms that would hit our site. And if you are paying attention to that, you can literally know, when you're doing something right, you'll see the activity. When you're not, it's not sticky, you won't see the activity. It allows us, years ago when I first started, you put an ad in the newspaper, the customer walked in with the rolled up newspaper under their arm and said, if you have this car, I'll buy it. Today's very, very different. The internet all it really has done is move the customer back a level and put a buffer between us and the customer, to where we want to elevate them to live contact and communication. But to be able to do that, we need to know where they are.
Sure.
So without knowing where they are and where they're coming from and what message they're actually looking at, it's very, very difficult to capture those customers. So, I would suggest for any dealer that's really trying to create a strategy, first set up your measuring tools. Understand where your traffic is coming from. Don't just throw money out there, and I'm sure that'll be part of our conversation. Make it rain money, it's going to make it rain customers. That's not necessarily so. You can really spend efficiently if you're paying attention to the traffic through your data suite.
Well, and if you're executing a proper strategy, then efficiency really is the name of the game, right? Like, it's one thing to see the activity like you're talking about, but if that activity is not meeting an objective, well,
then it's just activity for the sake of activities. You know, you're not wrapping around a full strategy, right? I mean, every solid strategy out there has an objective in place, and that's honestly, I think, the biggest difference. And guys, I hate to say this, but like I've been doing audits for dealerships for years, and I would still say a lot of us are stuck in kind of this activity mode, and don't ever quite get to that stage of strategy. Justin, would you like to add to that?
Well, so the thing, you know, you mentioned the notion of activity for activity for activity, and at the end of the day, part of that strategy is activity, but it has to be integrated.
Yes,
it has
there we
to
go.
work together, and there has to be
meet
a
that
purpose
objective. Yep.
to get to that next level, right?
Yep.
Bill talked about that sort of, you know, buffer that's between the customer and the dealership. And one of the things, and I'm sure Bill will say that at some point, because I've heard him say it before, is all processes need to hold hands and work together. And that's really, in my opinion, Jason, that the key fundamental behind strategy. You have to have an understanding of what the goal is, and then understand the activity that's going to get you there. It could be a different channel. It could be a different, you know, ad type, a video, whatever the case may be. But you have to have an understanding of how that strategy is going to be more than just activity.
You know, to add to what Justin said, you know, he made a very good point. You know, in not that our world is the end-all fix-all to the business, but we are philosophically, everything holds hands, including our internal manual processes, our people. You know, from the top to bottom up, we educate all of our employees on what our traffic looks like. In our morning meetings, they see what our digital traffic looks like.
Everybody needs to be a part of it.
They can see how many events. They can see how many customers are coming from what areas of the cyber world, if you will. The other thing too is you know, the strategic value of having your search engine optimization work hand in hand so that your paid search kind of turbocharges it, rather than just throw a lot of money at paid search to hope it generates customers for you, is a big deal. Because we're the smartest people in the world, we've just learned from trial and error that if you can make everything you do, including, I'll just give you one example. We have a QR code for just about everything. The QR code sends every customer to the same place,
Yep.
right? Because the goal is really to funnel everybody in all areas of what we do back to our website so that it churns up the weight on our search engine optimization. The more it does that, we all know organic search is always your best bet for selling a customer for conversion, right?
Of course.
Always. But if you look at all of your other areas of digital marketing as a segue to boosting your organic search weight.
It's that full integration.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I know, and I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because, you know, we have to look at marketing as a holistic approach, right? I mean, and this is where I kind of wanted to get into our conversation, and thanks for teeing that up, Bill, because, you know, I know, Justin, me and you have talked about this before. It's like we got to get away from just this channel approach, right? These proverbial check boxes of like, okay, I did that channel, and I did this channel, and I got my SEO, and I did my keyword search, and I did my meta, and I did my, you know, we have to get away from that, and we have to look at it from an integration. So, and I know, so let's go there. I want to go there. And in fact, actually, Justin, I'm going to kick you off here. Like, you know, and I know omnichannel is the word that's used a lot right now. Is omnichannel real integration, or is it just multiple channels?
It depends.
Okay.
And that's not meant to be a you know, indirect answer. It depends. Like, there are some people that will do, quote, omni-channel, but at the end of the day, it's really multi-channel.
Yes.
Right? And if you, in my opinion, are doing true omni-channel advertising, it is fully integrated, and you have the ability to understand not only what channels to be on, but when to be on them. And Bill knows this, right? He mentioned it earlier with the data that he and his team look at on a daily basis. There are so many variables that change daily, Jason, and you know this, right? Is today the day to be on Amazon? Should we be on TikTok? Should we be on Google? Right? And those are the things in a true integrated omni-channel strategy that are going to be part of the conversation. And if you have the appropriate technology, you're going to have signals that are going to help you understand where and when to invest your advertising dollars efficiently. Because at the end of the day, as an operator, Bill only has so many dollars to invest in digital advertising.
That's right.
We need to make sure that that investment is as efficient and as effective as possible, because if he's spending a dollar somewhere, he can't spend it somewhere else.
Well, and when I think of integration, that's what I hear. Like, I'm spending $1. I'm not spending $1 on marketing. I'm spending $1 where that customer is at. And just for everybody out there watching, listening, when I hear Justin kind of talk about integration, that's what I hear, right? It's like, all right, if my customer's over here, I'm going to be over here. If my customer's over there, I want to be over there, right? But it's chasing the customer, not the channel.
Well, the funny thing, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but I was listening to the session that was right before us. You and the gentleman from Podium,
Yep.
and he shared that, hey, we started to watch a show the other night. Let's assume it was on Netflix, right? He was streaming on OTT in some capacity, and he's like, it wasn't that it was a bad show or a bad movie. My wife and I are sitting there. He shared he was shopping for something, and she was on social media. They were spending time together. Wasn't a bad movie, but they were still there. That's the opportunity to reach a shopper where they're spending time.
100%. And I think for anybody out there, that's where we're seeing and I know, Bill, that you've seen this. So, Bill, this is where I kind of want to go with this. Is like, I think for years our industry has been chasing the click. Guys, I don't have a budget for sound effects. But I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Bill. Like, are we chasing the click or are we chasing profit? I mean, what's the difference at the end of the day? What are best practices, man?
Okay, well, first of all, if you're not chasing profit, you got to get out of any business you're in.
All right, there you go.
That's number one. Get
Podcast
out.
is over.
You heard that here.
Don't burn your cash.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Yeah, or give me your money. I'll make money with it, and I'll give you a piece back. We can do it that way. Look, chasing the clicks, you got to get, if you don't get the clicks, you don't get the conversions. Okay, so that we know that. Yes. If people don't click on your, whether it's your ad or your vehicles or or your message, it doesn't really matter. If they don't go there, if the other guy doesn't show up, you can't win a fist fight.
Sure.
Point blank. Okay? So therein lies the clicks. After that, though, do they convert? Is your site sticky? There's so many different layers to this that just to, and I had this conversation, a dealer group from one of the meetings I was at most recently, and I was a keynote speaker at. I spoke about this very topic, and they said, would you mind getting on a call with us and talking about branding a certain brand in their market? And I said, sure. So we had the very same conversation, and there was 4 people, a vice president of this, a marketing guy of that, and general manager, and they were talking about how to brand in their market. And I said, okay, well, let me just tell you what we do. I said, but there's one small problem here, and I'm not being a wise guy. There's a lot of detail involved here to make everything hold hands. This is what people maybe fail to see. You want to give people the impression you're everywhere. How do you do that?
And that is a great question here real quick because to your point, not all customers are made equal, right? There are some that are out there and they're in their research stage. And then there's some, to your point, with the click. They're in the shopping stage, right? They're actively shopping. They're clicking on multiple. No one just clicks on one thing. I mean, come on, we know this, right? Like they are shopping. And then there are the ones that are, they've made the decision and now they're fully, ready to buy. And, Justin, I know you can probably say this a lot better than I can. But
no pressure.
No pressure, right? But being where all customers are at is where one set of customer at, I think, is key, correct?
Well, sure, because again, everybody's journey is very different. It's not linear.
Yes.
It is not a straight line. It is not a single click and go. People are going to be doing research at some point, and then they're going to step away, and then they're going to come back in, and there's going to be some other factor that's going to encourage them to get back into that research, and then they're going to land on a vehicle. And with all of the digital properties and digital channels out there that are at our disposal for advertising, you have to make sure you are reaching the consumer where they're spending time with critical messaging that is going to resonate with them. Those are the 2 key things, right? It's reaching the right people and making sure that you're hitting them with messaging in a timely fashion. So 100% agree with you.
Well, if I could just add one thing to that, what Justin said is key. But from an operational standpoint, there has to be deliverables. I mean, you have to be able to deliver on the message.
That's true.
Yep. It's the old story of the woman who makes great chocolate chip cookies out of her garage and decides she's going to create a website, and she can make a box an hour, and then she gets 100,000 orders, and she goes out of business because you can't fill them. Right? So you got to be able to deliver on the message operationally. That being said, having an operation where, to Justin's point, the various levels where people are at, if your messaging includes a strategic approach that is omni-channel, meaning this guy's over here, I got to bring him down 3 levels to get him closer to the bottom of the funnel. This guy's over here, I just got to tap him on the head, he's going to drop in. So, but my point is to have the various areas of advertising digitally that move each one of those customers to whatever that next level is. That's the approach. That's what the omni-channel approach really is about. That's the strategy of it. And the last point I'll make on that, very simple, and this area of the world can really understand this. The difference between how the British fought the war in the beginning, they marched straight at each other, and then they came here and they realized that the Indians learned something called the flank, where they actually had a strategy where they would stand up in the hills and watch you walk into the valley and then snow you under, right? Difference between the strategy and the straightforward march, which is check all the boxes. I'm going to pay, here's my paid search dollars, here's my organic search engine optimization, here's my newspaper, here's my radio, here's my TV. I'm good. Let's see what happens on the 30th. No.
I love the fact you bring that up, because I will say, and don't get me wrong, the fact you guys are probably watching and listening to this, you're probably not one of these individuals, all right, but there are still a fair amount of people in our industry that are operating in that exact same format. I know, Justin, me and you have talked about this before, and I think it's really, really key for everybody out there listening. Over 90% of that journey happens before the customer even makes themselves known, right? And it's so I'm just thinking the complexity that is required to be kind of to your point, Bill, in all those places, to be in the research phase, and then to be in the shopping phase, and then they get to the shopping phase and realize, that car's not big enough. Let me go back to the research phase, and let me go, it's this partner to do this. But here's the thing I'm finding in our industry is I'm finding this, I guess, fragmented vendor approach, which Strudel really kind of leans into, and the channel strategy of just, let me check off these boxes. I mean, I got one vendor over here doing this, I got another vendor over here doing this, I got another one over here, and then, okay, maybe collectively I've checked off those boxes, but none of them are communicating with me. And I hate to say this, but I see this happen so often right now that it just blows my mind. And I know, Justin, you have seen this as well. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the Bill from a dealership perspective. I'd love to get yours as well.
Well, sure. I mean, the notion of being integrated versus fragmented, that's really what you're identifying, right? A dealer may have one vendor to do their search, and then they have another vendor to do their social, and then they're working with somebody on OTT. And let's just assume we're stopping there, because we haven't even talked about the creative side of things. That's true. Right? Because each of those individual vendors is going to have their own creative flair, their own creative idea. As a dealer, Bill could certainly sit in the middle and say, hey guys, this is the strategy, I need you to execute, I need you to execute, and I need you to execute. But then what happens is Bill is focused on, corralling all of those individual partners or vendors, telling them the message, making sure that it lines up. And that, Jason, is fragmented, right? It's not necessarily good or bad. I'm not going to say good or bad, but it's fragmented. It's disconnected. Whereas when you go into an integrated strategy, if Bill says, hey, this is what we want to focus on. We want to focus on, Escalade this month, whatever it may be. We can take and have the same strategy, the same messaging, the same creative, that is integrated across all of those channels, so Bill knows that his customers, whether they're spending time streaming a show on Amazon or scrolling on TikTok, the message supporting the vehicle that Bill needs to focus on from Gold Coast Cadillac, the messaging aligns from front to back, top to bottom.
And that's important. I know I know a customer can feel that, because we know brands that do a good job of this, right? We know brands. Anyway, so I want to go back to the dealership side, because I think there's a huge dealer impact. Have you seen this too, Bill?
Yeah, and again, to piggyback what Justin's talking about, when you're talking about the various levels of capturing the customer, it's really critical to remember to convert these customers, not just from the internet perspective, but just where they are. I'll give you an example. Talking about the third-party vendors. I advertise on Cars.com and AutoTrader, right? We both know really well.
Yep.
I spend the bare minimum for only one reason. Auto Trader and Cars.com are two of the most well-known names in the industry. People click on them.
Yes.
I don't spend advertising dollars on them, and I don't expect to sell cars on them. I'm only on them because, and I make sure I have one of the less expensive cars and one of the most expensive, so wherever they go on that site, they can find Gold Coast. I don't care which car they look for.
Yep.
It's to boost my search engine optimization. I don't even go on there to
That's
sell
a unique
cars.
strategy,
It is
man.
a unique strategy. Along what brands us and brings all this together in my world is I do a lot of branding myself, but to Justin's point, wherever we go, like, and not to plug Proficy, but they do a great job with this. I call them and I say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's where I'm going with it. Here's what I'm going to advertise, and here's where I'm going to shift gears. The nice thing about them is they'll actually pivot with me. It's not just spend
That's important.
$15,000 or $20,000 on the first, and we'll get back to you on the 30th. Again, that strategy rolls forward day to day with them, and they also pay attention to, the same thing I'm paying attention to with the same measuring tools, which is great, which is a big help to me. So yeah, it's that their approach and my approach work very well.
So I got to ask, would you bet your gross profit on your current plan?
Would I bet my gross profit? You explain that further.
No, I'm just saying, like, because I say it kind of,
Yep.
sarcastically,
Yep.
right? Because I think that's what a lot of dealers are out there right now are doing.
Yeah.
Is that, they're betting this potential gross profit on a plan that, come on, let's face it, it's a little half baked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm confident in what you just said and the way that you just articulated it, that this is a full-fledged, omnichannel integrated strategy, and I can see like, yeah, all right, I'll bet my gross on this.
Well,
This is-
a great point. And again, I all the credit to my people internally, but when we spend money in any area of the digital world or any place, for example, we make sure our ground floor employees know where we're advertising,
Yeah.
what the messaging is, how to handle the customer to bring them to live communication. And the big key for us is, and we talk about it all the time, how do we stay top of mind to anybody who comes in contact with us, whether it's CSI, our retention tools, but we tie all that into a digital mechanism. And for example, we have a thank you letter. It's got my name on it, my cell phone number. We have a QR code on there, which the salespeople scan at point of sale, that brings them to our appointment scheduler, which is
See,
embedded in our
there we go.
website.
I love it. Right.
It's embedded in our website.
And I love the fact that you brought up multiple departments, right? Because I think too often, I know you've talked about this many times before too, guys, and for everyone out there watching and listening, is that too often we get into these marketing strategies, and not only are our vendors fragmented in the sense that they're not communicating with each other, thus, and guys, just bottom line, real quick on that before I go, because I love finding rabbit holes. When you have, no, thanks guys, you're all right, but I will say this, right? When you have fragmented vendors like that, and they're all kind of chunking away doing their own thing, it doesn't surprise me that 90% of your spend out there is only focused on the bottom funnel, right? Because what you're doing is you're holding all of the guys accountable for just bringing you the bottom funnel, and they end up, honestly, they step over each other's toes, they trip over on top of each other. But here's where I wanted to go with this, because I think at the end of the day, what makes a partner truly accountable is what's key here. And I think for everyone out there watching and listening, your marketing agency needs to be an accountable partner. Justin, we've talked about this, so I know you got some thoughts on this. Would you like to add to it?
Well, sure. Listen, it's a two-way street, right? At the end
Yes.
of the day, we can drive traffic, but it's, in this case, Bill's job to convert it. And he shared part of his strategy when it comes to training, right? Education, communication. These are all things that, we as a digital advertising company, we can't do that for Bill. So Bill has the process, Bill has the team, he's recognized them. From our perspective, partnership is a critical part of it. We want to be in it as a partner in a dealer's business. Those same types of things: training, education, communication. We got to talk about the good things. We got to talk about the things that may not be so good, right? There's a lot of instances where I've heard, in my career, where it's like, hey, look at all these great things, green arrows, green arrows, green arrows. but not enough people are comfortable talking about the red arrow, and that's part of it. Hey, Bill,
Sign
listen,
of a
we
good
did
partner.
great on these 3 things. We need to talk about this one piece because from our standard, our perspective, we could do something different. We could be more effective. And that, in my opinion, is really what partnership is all about. We have to help support Bill and Gold Coast Cadillac and make sure that whatever, adventure we're about to go on together, like we understand it and we're in it together.
Well, and Bill, and I know I won't want you to answer this, but I just know from a dealer's perspective, for everyone out there watching and listening, that really does affect the profit at the end of the day, right? One of the things I found key to my success as a dealer operator, and I'm sure, Bill, yours is the same too, is getting my vendor partners, and I truly consider them to be vendor partners, in line with what my profit goals are, right? So not only from an operations, an internal operations perspective, are we firing, like you said, your whole team, on all the cylinders with the objective, but now I also got my marketing and my vendor partners also marching to the same tune. One of the things I always found really, really interesting and kind of surprising is that we seem to have separate meetings. So we'll have a meeting internally for our staff to talk about what the next quarter's objectives are. And then we'll go have another meeting with our vendors and sometimes individually, which then that surprises me too. By the way, anybody out there watching listening, if you're not bringing all your vendors into a single meeting, you're missing out on a huge opportunity, right? I mean, Bill, I know you're good at this. You love to kind of bring everybody into play on this so that you got everybody marching to the same tune.
When we put at the beginning of the month, and it's as simple as, for dealers that don't have the, maybe it's the time or the capacity to do that, send out an email on the first day of the month or the day before the first day of the month when you put your advertising strategy together. Include your paid search agent, your whoever handles your search engine optimization if it's outside, your radio, your TV, any of your social media vendors, put them all together on one email and outline what your approach is. Get them all on the same page, which literally on the same page, which we do every single month. And my advertising agency actually works directly with each one of these agencies if I have, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that one email, as goofy as it may sound, I can go right to that email on the 15th of the month and hit reply all, change the message, and they all know about it. It's that simple.
Yes.
It's that simple. And, to that point, I think at the end of the day, some of the things that Justin said are so critical. The most important thing is to have, if you're going to, like Proficy as an example, dealers don't know, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody. I learned this stuff by accident. Otherwise, I was going to be a dinosaur. I had no choice. But for the younger people or some of the people coming up in the business, our advertising is a net $158 a car. Net $158.
I love the fact that you know that, by the way.
But it is. And
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not.
But the reason for that is the ROI. If you're advertising properly digitally, and you do take a multi omni-channel approach where everything holds hands, everything fuels everything else, and then your employees are tied in by educating them on why staying top of mind to the customer works in stride with this. And one last point, for all of you that have data mining services, Auto Alert or Master, whatever you have, require your employees, your managers, and your salespeople on the floor to be on it for, we do 10 hours a month. If you're not on it 10 hours a month, 2.5 hours a week, you can't take ups until you have it done. And also, you're not allowed to, we take you out of the portal the next month. So you don't want that to happen. So what happens is this. When everybody's in there for 2.5 hours a week, during the week, sending out offers to the customers, what happens is, innately, a certain percentage of those customers go back to your website for VDPs, and they start looking at your specials. You stay top of mind.
It starts the whole process.
It starts the whole process all over again. And what you're doing is you're creating, you're adding so much weight to your search engine optimization. Your URL becomes more sticky, and you show up number 1, 2, or 3. And now on a general organic search from the outside in, even those customers are seeing you first because you're paying attention to how everything holds hands. Exactly what he's talking about.
100%. I know, Justin, you got some thoughts on this too.
Well, to Bill's point, right? It's all about quality traffic.
There we go.
Quality traffic that is ultimately going to convert. Billing is exactly that, right? We want to drive more quality traffic that is going to increase the visibility and basically ranking for that dealership with Google, because at the end of the day, we just want to get that customer back to the website, because that's your digital parking lot, so to speak, right? That's where we need to get customers to engage.
Well,
So-
and here's what I love about both you guys and talking to you guys and hearing, both from Proficy's partnership with you, Bill, and then Bill, your partnership with them. Look, I see this so much as a two-way, and I think that's what makes a good partnership, really, at the end, right? Is that, what is that? All rising tides, lift, right? Exactly. Thank you. I'm not always good with a good one, but is you guys' commitment to that, right? And one of the things I think is cool is just your guys' approach that digital traffic, you guys, is not two different separate things, right? They're a customer, and too often I've gone out and had to have meetings with dealers. I know if you've been in one of my meetings, you know who I'm talking. You know who you are, all right? Where it's like these are two different. No, it's the same person. We need to have our marketing, but our operations have this full funnel, omni-channel approach. And the only way you're ever going to be able to execute this is within a partnership. So, guys, look, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, but my last question, I'd love to kind of get your guys' perspective, is just, how you guys treat that digital customer like the showroom traffic, right? For you, it's not different. Bill, I'd love to get your thoughts, and then Justin, I'd like to finish off with yours as well.
Well, we have BD, obviously. We have 3 people in sales. We have 2 people in service. But the digital traffic that comes through, one of the things that we do is we do a lot of outbound. Like if you touch our flypaper known as our internet, and you're there, we're coming to you. We're going to encourage you we're try to elevate you to live communication. Our BDC people, as an example, they're required, as soon as they notice a customer, a lead, or whatever, they have to pick up the phone, call the customer. They almost simultaneously send a text message to the customer. And one of the things that, a name we probably all know well, a good friend of mine by the name of Mark Rikus, he taught me a long time ago, which I loved, I stole this from him, is the minute you get on the phone with the customer, ask them, are you ready to proceed with the purchase, or there are other questions that you have before we go ahead with that process? And it's amazing how the customers light up when you say that, because whatever their main objections are, in a very nice way, come out in a very positive way, rather than jamming it down their throat. So we have 3 young ladies that work in our sales BDC. They spend all day. They answer all inbound phone calls, all sales calls. They answer every internet lead. They do all the follow-up, and once it's assigned to a salesperson, the salesperson is then followed up on by the same BDC agent, because now they both have an interest in making that deal, because our BDC people are on percentages of success, meaning they get paid on how many appointments, how many shows, and what percentage of sold against total leads. And they know what the national benchmarks are for all of the above. And we publish those numbers constantly, so they know where they're at.
And I mean, that's really taking the approach that, everyone's a customer. Like, there's not a difference between the one that's in my showroom or the one that's digital. They are customers at the end of the day, and you guys have created a process that is backed by people, right? A process, and of course, some technology that's going to put this all together. Bill,
one more thing I just want to add. I'm sorry to take up all your time. Listen, I can pick up my phone, which is charging in that wall right over there right now, and I know for a fact when I open up my Google data suite, there may be 2 or 3 people standing in my showroom, but there's going to be 40 or 50 people on my site right now.
100%.
Why would you want to roll the dice by staring at the door when you have 50 people staring at your website?
That's right. Be where the customers are at. No doubt. Justin, final thoughts before we finish off?
That's tough to follow what Bill just said, because that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right? A customer is a customer is a customer, and at the end of the day, in this instance, our goal is to help drive more people to Gold Coast Cadillac, whether it's Gold Coast Cadillac, the physical location, or goldcoastcadillac.com. We know that if we drive that traffic, if we bring that shopper to Bill and his team, they'll convert it if it's meant to be converted, and that's the reality. I think to your point earlier, do you treat them differently? You shouldn't, because as Bill said, Do you want to talk to the 2 people that are standing in your showroom that are already being attended to, or the 40 people who are in your virtual showroom, your website? I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding, and I think it's, you know, pretty important that all customers, you know, in that instance, need to be treated with the best possible process that 100%. Your dealership has. So,
guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me today. For everybody out there watching and listening, guys, I know we've covered a lot, and I'm sure we could do a whole series just on integration and omnichannel. In fact, there might be one out there. But
sounds vaguely familiar.
If you guys want to learn more, I'll put it in the notes. But hey, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. It is now time for Q&A. So you guys have been watching. Make sure you guys put in your questions. We're going to hang out right after this and answer those questions. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. This
awesome,
has been a
man. Glad to be here with you.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks. We appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.
Hey, everyone. What is going on? I'm just absolutely amazed and impressed how many of you guys have stuck around for this whole thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was really, really good content. So it actually doesn't surprise me, but I am super impressed to see such a large portion of my audience here and ready to get in some Q&A. Guys, I've been watching the text messages come in. By the way, thank you for sending them. No, I'm not going to repeat all of them, but thank you for sending them. I'm going to bring up Justin real quick with me. I know he's sitting backstage. Let me bring him up real quick with us. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Jason, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy holidays, by the way.
Hey, happy holidays to you, man. I love the little holiday theme you got going in the background on the screen there. It's great.
I should have done a little bit more. People are like, why don't you have like a I'm like, I'm drinking eggnog. So I'm ready. No, the way I should do these shows from now on. It's just a little heavy eggnog on this.
Yeah, why not?
Justin, man, I'm telling you, man, I am so impressed. Everyone has stuck around. They're ready to do some Q&A. We've gotten some great text messages in. James, who just texted me, no, I'm not repeating that. But thank you for texting. You know what? Here's the thing. You know how this goes, Justin. You're in this industry with a lot of friends out there. And I'm sure you know exactly which James I'm talking about. All right. And, you know, you put up a phone number and they all think it's fun to text in and say hi.
Well, for them, it is fun.
It is fun, right?
Yeah.
But man, we have some dealers on right now that have asked some really great questions, and I am super excited to get into them. And honestly, I don't know if we'll be able to get through all of them, guys, but we're going to get through as many as we can right now. And what we don't, we'll make sure that we post the question and the answer in the show notes. So, guys, if you're watching this and we don't get to your question, we're going to post them in the show notes. I'll put them down there, and then me and Justin will answer them kind of later on social media and stuff like that. Okay, but let's get into, where did I see this? I just posted, I sent it to you, and then of course now I can't find my screen. Okay, here we go. How does this omni-channel approach help me sell more cars tomorrow, not months from now?
Wow, that's a great question. So, tomorrow, hopefully
I know everybody want it tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully I already have some lines in the water. Conceptually thinking, when it comes to omnichannel, you want to make sure that you're in various stages of that buyer journey. So everything, if you're thinking of a marketing funnel, from awareness all the way down to urgency. So as you get closer to the bottom of that funnel, the channels and the messaging needs to change. So theoretically, making sure that you have, strong CTA, appropriate offers, timely offers, and that you're advertising in channels that are going to reach shoppers when they're at the bottom of the funnel, so to speak. They've kind of completed their journey and they're like, hey, I know I want, this particular make and this particular model. That will help you sell those cars tomorrow. I think the key thing, and again, it's a good question. I think the key thing, Jason, is that's literally just like one piece of where to reach shoppers when it comes to omnichannel.
100%. When I really kind of think about it, guys, it's what happens tomorrow is what you put in place several months ago.
Exactly.
And that's something I know as an automotive industry that we need. Like, I understand we have this very clear mindset of a 30-day period and stuff like. But guess what? That's not how the shopper shops. Okay, we know that over 90% of their actual shopping behavior happens online before it comes to the dealership. Actually,
Right.
the funny thing is the moment they actually come to the dealership, it is like the very, very bottom percentage of time actually invested to this monster thing, almost kind of like an iceberg, right? Where you're looking at, when they come to the dealership, you're just seeing the tip of this big monster effort that kind of led up to it, right?
Well, you and I have talked about it, and I love your notion of like what happens tomorrow as a result of what you've done for the past, 60, 90 days. But you and I have talked about it, right? 3, 5, maybe 7% are at the absolute bottom of the funnel using your iceberg at the absolute peak where they're walking in, they're like, I want that one. So it's what you've done leading up to that point that's really going to help.
100%. And I think one thing that guys, and I know we talked about this in it, and I think it's something that just, one of my biggest takeaways from this conversation is that as an industry, we have to get away from this channel strategy. Okay. So I'm not saying the person that sent in this text message, you're executing that right now. I have a gut feeling that there's a fair amount of people out there that are using the channel strategy, these proverbial boxes, right?
Sure.
Like my YouTube and my TikTok and my Instagram and my Facebook or
Yep.
Meta, sorry. And just checking off these channels. Here's the thing. When you're targeting the customer, it doesn't really matter what channel they're on. You're targeting that customer at different buying signals.
That's it.
Right? That's when they're doing their research or their consideration or they're like full-blown shopping, right? That's when you gotta target them. Anyways, I know you got some thoughts. If you wanna add to that real quick.
No, I think that's exactly it, right? It's not necessarily about the channel. It's about being where shoppers are spending time and having the ability to deploy advertising on the channels when the time is right. And that kind of really supports your point that you're making, right? It's not about just saying, hey, I am on Facebook, I am on YouTube. It's about making sure that you're on the whole gamut
Yes.
and that the messaging is going to be consistent across those different channels, and then also be sequential to the point where if you and we'll go super simple, like if you send an awareness ad on Facebook, the next step shouldn't be directly down to, here's a, form fill.
I don't
Like,
wanna put a ring on it just immediately. Wanna
that's it. Like, let's work into this for a little bit. Like, and far too often that's what will happen is it's just like you have awareness running on one channel and then it's just strict bottom of funnel on the other.
Yes.
But what if that shopper's not ready to go from the top all the way to the bottom?
100%. In fact, actually, guys, to be totally honest with you, me and Justin have talked about this before, not necessarily in this recording, but customers actually sometimes bounce up and down in the funnel.
Of course they do.
All right. And I get it, right? This month was to purchase a new vehicle, but bam,
Life.
I
Yeah,
got a
life
new roof. Life happened. I got a new roof that needs to get replaced, or Christmas is going to cost a little bit more than I thought it was going to, right? Like just so that they go back into that, and that's the difference between targeting the person, not targeting the channel. And
Yep.
that is a huge, huge kind of, and it's a mind shift, guys. I understand that. Look, I understand. I was a dealer, right? We've operated in the channel strategy for decades.
Ever. Yeah,
Right?
forever.
Yeah, decades, forever, but we're saying that it doesn't have to happen that way anymore. Sorry, anyways, I digress. Let's go into this next one because I actually really do like this one too. Because
All right.
does this thing help me find new customers or just beat up the same old CRM list again? I think I know who your marketing vendor is. And
But we're not going to say.
we're not going to.
Jason, that's such a great question, and I love that question. Really, truly, that's the notion of incrementality, right? It's about going to find shoppers that aren't currently aware or considering your dealership, your brand, and a big portion of having a strategy that is like really, truly full funnel. You said it, kind of answering the last question. It's about what we did 60, 90, 120 days ago. And that's the whole thing. Oftentimes, if inherent demand for a particular brand isn't looking incredibly strong, we need to go build it. We need to go use some of these upper funnel channels. And I know we're talking about a lot about upper funnel and lower funnel. Upper funnel is really, think of awareness, and lower funnel is really like conversion, like things are happening, we need to go educate local shoppers who are, in your appropriate geographic area about your brand. So to the person who asked this question, we're not just, and I'm using their term, beating up your CRM list. Yes, we want to make sure that you have retention. That's through sales, that's through service, but it's about growing the business and growing market share, right? Growing market share is a key piece of this, Jason, because you can, we'll talk to dealers and they're up X% year over year, and that's fantastic. But when we can show a dealer that their market share penetration, their piece of the pie is growing, but the OEM in that market share may be constricting, man,
100%.
that's a powerful story.
Well, and really, I think, it's funny, and I'm so glad you brought up market share because, for a while there, that kind of been the North Star. And then it kind of faded away. We got into, I call it a decade or maybe even almost a decade and a half of, clicks and impressions and CTRs and CPCs and CPLs and CPAs and every other three-letter bloody acronym that we kept. Like, we've accepted that like engagement is more important than, and it just, there's nothing. I mean, honestly, maybe I guess some older folks in the business watching the show right now, y'all gonna know it. Okay, I got someone who just said, yes, I do. Yeah, right.
Oh, we're in this together.
Look, the North Star is market share. That's what it is. Like, that is the true indicator that I'm actually moving the needle. Because to your point, Justin, like, things can happen in the market, right? Inventory levels can change. Seasonalities will happen, right? Yep. But, when I'm seeing that I am increasing my share, and guys, there's two market shares out there we're talking about, right? There's the 13 dealerships that are surrounding you right now, and those all different makes and models and that is a good market share. And then it's your market share within your own brand.
Right, your OEM.
You got to look at those numbers, both of those numbers, and you're seeing growth in there, man. You're doing things right. Even though maybe you didn't have as high of a month as you did last year. Anyways, I digress. I get on my soapbox.
Just to tie off, Jason, to make sure that we answered the question for whoever texted that one in. It is all about finding you new shoppers.
Yes.
In addition to keeping your retention high, but we want to go find new shoppers so you can actually grow the business.
Thank you for reeling me back in on that because I find rabbit holes. You text me up Jason's rabbit hole.
Yep.
No, I hear what I hear in the question that they're asking, right? And here's what I'm going to tell you. All right, is you need to find a partner in this business. Okay, not a vendor. It sounds like there's a good possibility, and I could be wrong, but it sounds like there's a good possibility that you're working with a vendor. All right. And that is someone that, yes, they don't have a great strategy around their data, and they're going to exhaust the living crap out of your database. Right. So this is a good question that anybody out there watching and listening right now, if you're going into 2026 and you're thinking of finding have an open, candid conversation with your existing partner, right? Ask them, what is their data strategy? What is their target's audience development strategy, right? Like, okay, great. This is how they're going to manage the data, and this is where they're getting it from. But then how are they actually going to break that down into audiences? Like, it's funny. We actually need to, I think as dealers, we need to know what those strategies are more than what the creative strategies are going to be. Because I think that's what's key moving into this next year. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I think, I don't want to dismiss or diminish creative, but the who and the how.
Yes.
You can have the greatest, coolest creative in the world, but if you're not reaching the right people with the right, strategy, you just have cool creative. It's a neat pick.
100%. That's kind of where I was going with it, right? You're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that full circle. All right, let's get into this next one here. Can your predictive modeling help me find new customers or just retarget old ones? It's kind of like a slightly different variation of the last question. So I think people are hungry for new customers.
I was just gonna say I sense a desire for dealers to grow market share and grow their business. Yes, it is about retargeting. At the end of the day, is bringing people back who may have visited your website, right? Bill talked about in our live session the importance of treating your digital customers as good, if potentially not better, as the ones in your showroom, right? He made the analogy, you can look at the front door and there's 2 people in the showroom, but there's 50 people on your website.
Exactly.
A retargeting strategy is going to make sure that if those 50 people on the website don't convert in a meaningful way, you have, continued messaging that's going to stay in front of them. So I think it's a similar question to the last one. But it's I think perhaps a little bit more technical, just in the sense of they saying like, hey, should we be retargeting? And the short answer to that is yes, but you also want to make sure that you're prospecting in your digital advertising, which is going to go find new customers who haven't yet made it to your website.
100%. And guys, when I think about this, I think in general as an industry, we've treated retargeting as like this like oversized bucket. And let's just throw them in the retargeting bucket.
Yep.
Oh, another one. Let's throw them in that bucket too. Like, I think when you guys will find when you're shopping for the right partner, that people are going to have very, very specific strategies around this. And I really employ that anybody out there, try to find someone who looks at audience messaging, right? There's if your current vendor is sticking everybody into a single retargeting bucket and just hitting them with the same message, that is a horrible, horrible strategy, right? Like you need to be specific to that audience. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, think about it this on this simple level.
Mhm.
If a shopper goes to a dealership and they go to the About Us or the finance page or whatever the case may be, most of the retargeting that we see, and I know you see this too, Jason, is going to be AIA specific or automotive inventory ads. So we're going to say, hey, you visited our About Us. Cool. Here's a carousel of vehicles. You visited the finance page. Cool. Here's a carousel of vehicles. And sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes it is. But if you think about it, to follow the path, follow the path that shopper is going down,
Mhm.
we're not ready for, a carousel, right? You go back to, Bill's analogy of the two people in the showroom. We have to meet them. We have to greet them. We have to find out what they're looking for. If Bill was just like, hey, here's an Escalade, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, I need a sedan, and like, you have to make sure that your digital strategy is just as effective.
It needs to be nimble and very much like you have to be customer first in this. And to your point, and I love your analogy, by the way, because that is a very perfect analogy out there, right? You're not just going to go out there and just show someone a car when you didn't even try to qualify them, right? And with today's technology, there's no excuse that your current vendor partner is not qualifying each piece of traffic and honestly trying to connect with them based on what they were looking for. No different than what you would do in your ding showroom
Showroom,
in the
right.
first place, right? I like that. That's a good one. Okay, here's another one just popped in. I like this one. What reports should I be looking at weekly if I want clarity on performance? Okay, you know me, this is one of my favorite rabbit holes, but I'm gonna let you take this first because man, what is this? Analysis by paralysis or no over analysis?
So this is, this is a great question and potentially a little loaded. You mentioned earlier, the CPC and all of the acronyms, and I'm going to just sum those as directional metrics, right?
I like that. That's a good way to say it.
They're going up, they're going down. Those are kind of your standard site-side metrics, if you will. I don't think those necessarily tell a great story from week to week. Sometimes, right? I'm going to answer this question very pro Proficy Digital, because part of what we do is very,
so yes.
yeah, is very unique. So our platform, AI machine learning behind the scenes, our platform is going to analyze traffic to a website, a dealer's website, on a real-time basis. So part of the reporting that we're looking at on a weekly basis with our partners is what's happening, meaning, are you in a sales cycle, you in a shopping cycle, you in a research cycle? How do we then adjust media spend to make sure that you're spending the appropriate amount on the appropriate channels? Right. And you and I have talked about that before, Jason. It's about being on the right channel, but also knowing when to adjust, when to throttle down, when to pull back a little bit. And so that for our team and our dealers is really the critical, reports. It's where are you in your sales cycle, right? So you understand, what's coming. And then, it's for us, it's our MMM or media mix modeling, which is going to show, hey, listen, we need to take some dollars out of Google and put it into Pinterest. We need to shift some funds from Bing and, bring it over to TikTok. So reporting is one of those things where, it's tough to say there's a one size fits all, because to answer the question directly, kind of depends on what your goal is and what you're trying to understand from that reporting. But as an operator, I would want to understand very specifically, where is my investment going and how is it being managed as effectively and as efficiently as possible?
You said it probably a lot more political than I would. So thank you. Because I push back a lot of this. I think I honestly, I gotta admit, I think most vendors out there send way too much reporting. And look, I've been there, I've done that. And we can make any number say any story that we wanted to say ultimately at the
Right.
end of the day, right? I think it comes down to the dealership, and this is where I push back on the dealership. I'm like, look, the reports you should be looking at should be based on the objectives that you gave your vendors in the first place. So one of the
Yep.
things I did as a dealer, and I still push all dealers I know to do this, is meet with all your vendor partners, all right, on a monthly and quarterly basis. Okay. Your vendor partners, your real vendor partners are going to want to know very intimately what each department's objectives are,
Mhm.
right? And then ask them, hey, I work with 9 different vendor partners. Okay, great. So which one, I need to know what strategy or what element of the business you're looking over, all right, or helping me or partnering with me with, are you going to do the next month or quarter, all right, to help me meet these objectives? And that's really the only report you should be looking at, all right? It's just like they need to be vested into your business, and they should be reporting back on ultimately what's important about your business,
Right.
market share, that's a huge part of my
Sure.
business, like, I mean, I know this sounds, yeah. Do I really care how many impressions, or clicks, or
Well,
leads, or any of this when I moved that needle, right? And they helped me and assisted me in that process.
yeah. The only thing I'll say, and maybe, again, I answered it very specifically, and I'm not saying this to challenge you. Question, I believe, was what report should I look at weekly? Market share is a tough one to look at weekly, right? That's where, to your point, you zoom out, you can look monthly, you can look quarterly.
Yeah,
I think part of the challenge often is, 1 week is very micro,
100%.
right? You mentioned it earlier. Hey, we live in this kind of
Like,
30-day
really think about
cycle.
it, on a weekly basis, you're trying to get a pulse. You're right. Good
That's it.
point. Yep. You're
That's
trying
it.
to you're trying to get a pulse.
Yep.
Hey, Justin, do you need to go, or do you have a few more? We have so many people that are still on here. Do you have time for one more?
Let's roll, man.
Okay. Let me grab one real quick. Um, okay. I I think we've kind of answered that one. Um, okay, no, here we go. How do I stop wasting money at the bottom of the funnel?
Okay. We get
That's
it.
kind of a loaded. It's kind of a loaded one because it's like we don't necessarily know how much they've spent.
Yeah. I- Again, the bottom of the funnel is critical. You don't want to, you know, dismiss it entirely. That said, most of the dealers that we talk to are spending, I don't know, 80 to 90% of their budget on bottom of the funnel channels, whether it be Google or Facebook. And again, those are both absolutely critical.
Yes.
It's about kind of spreading that out and diversifying. If you think of this from a stock perspective, typically you invest across multiple channels. So how do you stop wasting money at the bottom of the funnel? Diversify your strategy is kind of the short answer, to make sure that you're only investing in bottom of the funnel when customers are there and ready to transact, but you're building incremental shoppers and building awareness through investing in the top of the funnel through, other channels that are going to be reaching shoppers, like we talked about, Jason, 60, 90,
100%.
120 days before they're at the bottom of the funnel. So it's the short answer is diversify across, a strategy that's going to give you an ability to reach shoppers where and when they're spending time.
Well, and again, I think this is, I'll just keep saying, this is the importance of having a solid partner in this space, right? Because I mean, I think at one point in time, it was okay to put a percentage against it, right?
Sure.
You know, all right, I'll put a percentage this here, percentage that there, percentage this here, and it'll kind of, that's not enough anymore. And that's not what today's technology we're able to do. It could be based entirely on the week.
Yep.
And it really shouldn't have any type of strategy. Those indicators that your partner is targeting should be able to tell them when they throttle in or throttle out of, because again, you need that full funnel, right? If everything's down here, then you got to be feeding the whole beast. So there are going to be times where you're going to have to funnel up, you're going to have to throttle up and down.
So two things. One, to your visual analogy, if we're just focusing on the bottom, I mean, let's be clear. It then becomes a race to the bottom. It's your cost per everything, right? And we're not necessarily focusing on the directional metrics, but your cost per everything is going to go through the roof because you're battling every other dealer out there. The other point that I was going to make, and I'm a big fan of whoever this person who texted the question is, because there aren't a ton of dealers yet, Jason, who realize and understand the notion of, hey, I'm burning too much money at the bottom of the funnel. That's true. Like whoever that person who texted is, like, good on you for having the understanding that, sometimes having too much at the bottom of the funnel is a waste. And then you're, just tossing your profitability out the window.
100%. Guys, look, I know we've got a couple more that just popped up, but I know we're out of time. We will take these questions. We'll put them in the show notes, guys. Hey, I think there's still a lot of conversations need to be had here, Justin. So for everybody out there watching and listening now who would love to connect with you and maybe just follow up or even just ask you directly some of these great questions, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I'd love it. Email is justin.friend@proficydigital.com. Jason will put it in the notes that I'm going to appear like right down here as I'm saying this. Feel free to call me. My cell is 518-461-9333. Call, text, happy to chat and, answer any of these questions or discuss digital marketing in any capacity.
And by the way, guys, you should do this. I've known Justin for a long time. And the first thing you'll learn real quick about talking to Justin is that he really just has a passion for helping others. He'll eventually try to sell you something, but not out. Hey, okay, real quick. Before I let you go, I got to ask. I've been asking everybody.
Yeah.
What's one of your holiday traditions that you're looking forward to?
So actually, this is a fun, unique year for us. So this is the first year, Jason, that both of my kids are in college. So we've been empty nesters for a semester. So really excited to have them both home in the house. That'll be cool. Our holiday tradition, literally every Christmas Eve, we watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
I think at this point we can recite probably about 90% of the lines verbatim. It's popcorn and whatever, and that's the tradition that is pretty critical for us.
Dude, I love it. It's actually one of mine as well. I actually have a shirt that says Clark the Shitter's Full. Honestly, it's the best. Hey, for everybody out there watching and listening, I hope you guys have a great tradition and a absolutely wonderful holiday. We are so excited, and we feel privileged that you guys decided to come join us this afternoon. Hey, look, one of the biggest compliments you can give myself or Justin as a content creator is share the show. It means so much to us when we share the show. Look, I know that maybe subscribing or liking or commenting might not be your thing. I totally understand. Okay, but when you share the show, it means a lot to us. So if you got a friend or a colleague or a manager that needs to hear some portion of today's conversation, it means a ton to us when you share that show. Hey, Justin, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. For everybody out there watching and listening, we appreciate you. You guys have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks, Jason. See ya.